Just before we start the video, if you are curious about the weapons, gadgets, and perks for the hunters, go check out this little video right here. I just uploaded it the other day, so hopefully you'll like it. Alright, now let's get on with the ghost video. Hello everybody, my name is Dutchy, welcome to RPG Labs, and well, let's get into the video. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about all the ghosts in Midnight Ghost Hunt. Now, more specifically, all the abilities, the haunts, and the perks that they have. Also, just one more thing before we start. If this is the first time you're seeing this game, I recommend go check it out on Steam. I mean, it's 20 bucks. If you don't like it within the first 2 hours, you can always, get a refund. But I really recommend supporting the developers on this because those guys are really cool. And also, they made a really, really good prop hunt game, which I haven't seen in a long while. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the video so you can see what skills you want to use. Alright, let's start off with the abilities. Now, Phantom is the first ability that you will have unlocked. Now, Phantom is actually really good to bamboozle people and get the heck out of there if you need to. It also got a pretty short cooldown, so that's always handy. Now, the downside with Phantom is that you're technically still a little bit visible, and if the hunters would have marked you with the middle mouse button, that means that they can easily still track you if they're still in your line of sight. But if the line of sight has been lost and then you go invisible or into a different object, the marker will stay on the object that you were just in. Or in the position that you were just at. But yeah, this is really good for just getting rid of a pursuer really quickly, if you don't want to fight them or anything. Alright, let's move over to Spirit. Now, with Spirit, you are able to fly anywhere you want. This is extremely handy for example, there's this map where there's a pirate ship. And if you're at the bottom and you fly all the way to the top, the hunters will have to chase you, but the only way they can chase you is by climbing all the way up the stairs, while meanwhile you already turn into a different prop and maybe even jump back down again. So they're going all the way up and they have no idea where you are. This one is quite powerful in my opinion. The only downsides I have with this one is that technically you can use your lunge ability, which every single ghost already has automatically. So you can just lunge yourself in any directions as long as you're an object. So you can actually use this lunge ability as the same thing as the, spirit ability. Also, just letting you guys know that this lunge ability is also your main attack ability with props that don't really have an attack. So, like this cannon over here, it has an attack that it can basically fire, but, a chair won't have an attack that they can fire. So instead of having an attack like that, you can just basically lunge the chair. Alright, my mic just broke, so I just got a new one. So if I sound different, that's why. Alright. Now let's move on to Doppelganger. Now, Doppelganger is basically what it says. You turn into a Doppelganger of one of the enemy players. Now, this is really handy for bamboozling people really quickly, but if, for example, I see my own name, Killer Dutchy, appear in front of me, I will be like, well, that's obviously not me, so I'll shoot them. Alright, so this is a pretty good ability for bamboozling them. But, it'll only work once or twice really, and you can't really walk into a room with 4 of them and do it. I mean, you might be able to get away with it if they're newer players, but the longer this game's been out for, the easier people are to spot that. Besides, they only have to basically check you, and there's no friendly fire on their side, so it never hurts them. Now, a few little things about this though, is that one, when you're in this form, you can attack them. If you get hit, you will turn back into your ghost form immediately. But if you are in an object and you decide to change, you will get kicked out of that object immediately. Alright, now we move on to one of my favorite abilities at the moment, which is Poltergeist. Now, Poltergeist is basically a little thing where you can make objects levitate. And they sort of work like a trap, so if somebody walks into a room and there's a levitating object, it will be flung straight at them. Now, the cool thing about this one is that you can actually mix it with one of the other abilities, which is Corruptor. Now, Corruptor, basically, if a hunter would touch an object, it would blow up in their face. But with Poltergeist and Corruptor combined, it basically flings it towards the enemy, dealing a lot of damage. But yes, so I'll basically mix Corruptor and Poltergeist together all the time. Yeah, I guess I don't have to talk about Corruptor now, because I literally just explained it all. Alright, now let's move on to Telekinesis. Now, Telekinesis is quite a useful one. Now, with Telekinesis you can make objects attack. So, for example, if you be using a cannon, it will fire a cannon shot. If you use the gargoyle, it will use the claws of the gargoyle. Or if you would just use a random object in the world, you can actually make it be thrown in the world. Like over here, I'm just using it to throw it at this guy right here. Now, I realized a lot of players always end up following the thing that I just chucked at them, because a lot of the time they think that I just chucked myself at them. Or if it's a gargoyle, they'll think that the gargoyle is possessed, and, well, they'll try to attack the gargoyle. Pretty handy. I don't really see any big downsides to this, so yeah, I recommend give it a go. Alright, now we move on to the Trickster. Now, the Trickster is quite a cool one, so you can basically move any object in the world like pretending it's basically you. So, a lot of the time people will be tricked by this because an object moving means that there's a player inside of it. That's just a natural thought. But here's the thing about it though, it can only move into a straight line, so if you are in a rush or a panic, you might actually screw it up and only move it like an inch, or, well, like over here, it doesn't go through the door. But sometimes a split second is all you need to get away from the hunters. Now, I would actually kind of recommend you using this ability before they spot you. So if you're an object hiding, you pretend to move one of the objects to make it look like you're trying to escape. And as that object's moving and gets the attention from everyone, you move the other way and get the heck out of there. Alright, now we are moving on to the Apparition. Now, the Apparition is quite similar to the Trickster, except in my opinion it's slightly better because you can actually cast a total of 2. And also, these guys don't get stuck against random walls and you don't actually have to move them. You can just press a single button and they start moving around the map like crazy. Now, you can also use this while you're hiding in an object. So it's really handy just to pop this, then run away with the object. Especially if you're a small object, so they won't notice you and they'll be fully paying attention to the Apparition. Now we move on to Death Grip. Now, Death Grip is extremely powerful if you're trying to get away from people, because the cooldown of it isn't too long and you can basically pop it straight where you're standing. Now, if you're running away from people, and especially in a tight corridor or a doorway or something like that, if you pop this, they will definitely run over it. And once they run over it, they will be stuck for a few seconds. So they'll have to aim at their feet. They'll probably be like, wait, why am I stuck all of a sudden? They look down, they shoot it, you're gone. So this is definitely a really good one. If you are being pursued by 4 of them, it's still pretty handy because, well, you know, you can slowly lose them over time. Now let's move on to Messiah. Hopefully I pronounced that properly. But anyway, what this does, it develops a giant cloud of smoke around you, allowing you to get away. Also, this bit of smoke deals a bit of damage to people, so hey, that's always good. I don't really see a big downside of this, but yeah, no, it is pretty powerful. And at night it does even more damage. Alright, now let's move on to some of the abilities that you actually have during death. These are called haunts, by the way, and they are quite handy. Like this one right here, which is the default one, allows you to chill all the enemies in the area, making them, well, not sprint anymore. So if you see they are chasing one of your buddies, you can use this and, well, let your buddy escape. Now there's also another one called Healing Orb. This does exactly what it says. It just drops a healing orb. Meaning if one of your buddies is really low on health, you can just drop one and, you know, your buddy's good with health again. Now let's move on to Cold Spot. Now, Cold Spot, basically what it does, it gives a false reading on their radar. Meaning that if you use it and the enemy is looking at their radar and they're like, oh, there's somebody nearby. But in reality, it's just you using this perk. Very handy for if you're really trying to hide where your friend is. Now let's move on to False Trail. Now False Trail is a little bit similar to the last one, except this one basically allows you to put down a false trail of ectoplasm. Now ectoplasm sort of builds up the more you don't move, and if you suddenly start moving there will be a big trail of ectoplasm everywhere. Now what this basically does, it allows you to put a false trail, so if anybody follows that trail, they would be like, oh, where is he? Oh, he's in this object, but it turns out he's really not. Now the hunters have this tool where they can actually see ectoplasm properly, so if they use this tool, use this ability and trick them. Now we move on to hallucinations. Now hallucinations basically make a whole bunch of sounds in the area. Now this is really good for if you're really trying to distract someone and making them think that there is a person in the area. This works well against people who have, you know, no tools on them, so they can't really spot anything, and they'll just basically start shooting things around them. This one also has a pretty damn quick cooldown, so might be useful. Alright, now we move on to push object. Now with push object, you can basically shove an object and, you know, throw it towards the enemy team. But the thing is, it doesn't really seem to do any damage to them, and also, well, a lot of the time, personally, I've realized that it's, you know, it's not actually a player. So I'm not 100% sure about this one. But now we move on to Shove Hunter. Now Shove Hunter can actually be really handy because you actually move the hunter physically. Now if they're on a ledge and there is something down below that can actually damage them, sort of like the water in the pirate ship area, don't stand in there because it'll actually damage you, you can actually deal a bit of damage to the hunter while you're dead, which could really help out your friend. This can also be handy when they're trying to catch somebody and they are on a ledge and then you quickly shove them off so, you know, nobody can get to them. And now we move to Medium. Now Medium allows you to talk to them while you're dead. Now the cool thing about this one is that you can really trick people to make it look like there is someone in that room right there with you. The one downside is that your name will actually pop up at the top left, and if they check the stats, they can see that you're dead. So once they figured it out, it's almost useless. I mean, you can always, you know, just talk to them and just have a good conversation. So that's always a nice one. Alright, let's go over to perks, and let's start off with Ghostly Reach. This is the first perk that you get, and it is quite decent. Now, what this allows you to basically do is double the length of your possession for objects. So, if you see an object in the distance and you just can't reach it, well, with this one, you probably will be able to reach it. It is definitely also handy for jumping forth between objects really fast, so you can actually cover a lot more ground, meaning that you basically got a speed boost. Now, Ectoslow is basically, well, you just build up ectoplasm a lot slower than you normally would. That's literally it. The thing is though, if you press the V button, you can actually make a little noise and lose a lot of ectoplasm like that, so you don't actually even need to move. Now let's move on to Shatterproof. Now Shatterproof basically allows you to be an object and not break whenever you hit someone. Now, some of the objects in the game won't break as easily when you hit someone, but some of the more fragile objects, like let's say a teapot, will break on impact every single time. Unless you use this perk, which means that you're basically invulnerable to breaking yourself. Alright, now let's move on to Heavyweight. Heavyweight's a pretty simple one. Now, this basically negates 25% of the damage that anyone does to you. So, basically, you can take a few more shots while you're inside of an object. This one is definitely good for if you're more on the offensive as a ghost and you really want to try fight them. Now we got Ghostly Focus. Ghostly Focus basically shortens the cooldown for all your abilities. So if you have an ability and you think it takes a bit too long, use this. Pretty simple. Now I think that using telekinesis with this one would be quite handy because you can basically keep flinging things really fast at people. Meaning you can do a lot of damage in a short amount of time. Alright, now we have Perception. Perception allows you to see people through walls. So let's say you're an object and you really want to know exactly where they are. So you'll be able to move around them as sneakily as possible. Now the only thing that counters this is the cold blood that the hunters have, but they won't activate that until the end of the night most of the time. Alright, now we move to Untrappable. Now, this doesn't actually make you untrappable. You can still get into a trap. The only thing is, though, is that you can either move a little bit faster in the trap, or you can basically get out of the trap a lot faster. Now we move on to Glutton. Now, this one basically allows you to consume souls a lot faster. This is handy for if you really want to, well, you know, try consume them really fast, because this definitely speeds it up. I mean, just like, look how fast this is. Just... And that's it. And now I'll show you quickly what it's like without it. Now, as you can see, this takes a lot longer. So if you're really one of those players that wants to quickly trap people's souls quickly, this is the one. Also, when you do consume someone's soul, you gain a lot of health back. Now let's move on to blast resistance. Now blast resistance is pretty good, 75% of damage negation for any sort of explosive thing. And then we also have quick charge. Now quick charge basically allows you to attack a lot faster when it comes to, like, you know, flinging an object, but that's really about it. Alright, well, that's everything. That's all the perks, all the hauntings, all the abilities that the ghosts have. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and well, if you did, go check out this game anyway if you have never seen it before. 100% recommend it. It's extremely fun, and well, now you know what all the abilities do. So, anyway, I'll catch you guys later. Bye!